Hey everyone, Andrew here and welcome back to my channel. Now, if you don't know what I do by now, basically, if it's Canadian, I want to talk about it. The Simpsons. Now, I've discussed this show previously for the episode The Bart Wants What It Wants. In that video, I talked about the plot, what it got right, what it got wrong about Canada, and the big issue, which is this. Despite the advertisements about The Simpsons coming to Canada, this was actually a small part of the episode, and more or less it was just meh, another relationship episode. But since then, The Simpsons have come back to Canada a few times. First in RX Cowboy, Homer, Grandpa Apu, and Ned Flanders head up north to a discount drugstore after Mr. Burns cuts everybody's pharmacy plans. They do so by filling up at a place called Dudley Do Drugs, a reference that I'm sure many kids get. And then again in Boy Meets Curl when Homer and Marge are on the curling team for the Winter Olympics in Vancouver. But in those episodes, Canada was largely in the background, save for one or two gags. This time I'm talking about the episode Do Canada, where we see Lisa end up as a Canadian citizen. Now, between Do Canada and The Bart Wants What It Wants, a lot has changed. I grew up and my relationship with the show strained. I mean, yes, I'm still a big fan, but there are things about the show that just don't hit the same way they used to. One of the biggest issues I see is that The Simpsons is no longer the scrawny underdog. It's an institution, and because of that, there is a lot more of an effort to use pop culture to fill in episodes. It's like that episode where The Simpsons end up on a reality show where they have to live in a specific time period. At some point, the producers got tired, and as a brainstorming session, they decided to watch TV and just steal from other shows. So for example, The Bear is popular. Suddenly, Marge is a chef. Succession is a thing. Grandpa suddenly ends up in a Succession-esque type plot. Even Treehouse of Horror did a parody of Parasite at one point. I mean, it's hard to watch one of my favorite shows essentially just mimic other shows, but you know, that's part of time. Things change. Now, with all that said, yes, I am still a fan, but today I'm watching it through the guise of my YouTube channel's main objective, which is to discuss Canada and media. So, how did The Simpsons do the North? Let's take a look.
Now, the episode begins with the family enjoying a trip to Mount Splashmore, where I guess Homer is now allowed, when he gets a notification that his family has earned enough points for a free stay at a hotel. But they have to hurry because the points expire at midnight and they have to go all the way to Niagara Falls. While on their way there, they take a few potshots at the death of American commerce, with sight gags referencing the closing of several big box stores like Toys R Us and Circuit City, and they cap it all off with a song and dance number that makes fun of upstate New York. At the falls, the kids get bored with sightseeing and end up participating in a bumper balls game branded as Battle for the Falls, with Bart as the US and Lisa being Canada.
Now, there's more to this scene than meets the eye. Tim Long, writer and fellow Canuck, has always felt that Lisa was secretly Canadian, so this scene was the perfect summary of that image in his head.
Lisa calculates her next bounce, but is swept away and into the falls, and she ends up going over the falls. Before she does, you can briefly see the CN Tower because we have to. Lisa survives and ends up being saved by a Mountie who, of course, has to say A.
Great.
Like, a lot.
A.
Like, he really needs to say A.
I repeat, A.
At the hospital, Lisa is told she'll need to stay in Canada for a few days and that her treatment is free. At the hospital, Lisa then gets into a rant about the US and ends up being granted asylum. She's also given a hockey team, which, despite her protests, is the Ottawa Sens.
Hey, if you're gonna crap on them, at least live here. And yes, I admit 2019 was not a great year for the Sens, but they've gotten a lot better since then. Moving on.
Back in the US, The Simpsons video conference with Lisa, who's been put in a foster home in Windsor. And of course, there's a massive flag in the background to let viewers know she's in Canada. Her foster parents appear on the call, and they proceed to drop references to Canadian restaurants when they ask her where she would like to eat.
Okay, so a few things about this. First of all, why is it anytime something is set in Canada, there has to be a Mountie, a hockey player, or a Canadian flag everywhere? Now, I will give them credits. Yes, they did get some stuff right, but one of the big ones is this. It's not called Mr. Submarine. It's just Mr. Sub. Now, the big ones that bother me are Humpty's. Humpty's is in Alberta and Lisa's in Ontario. If you're gonna suddenly drop names and show off your knowledge, at least make sure you've got your stuff correct.
After a gag about Springfielders' reactions to the news and a meta joke, we see that Lisa is attending Alanis Morissette Elementary.
Because Terry Fox would require American viewers to Google who that is.
At school, we get a messed up chart for poutine that implies curd should be on the bottom, and Lisa starts praising the science textbooks for acknowledging climate change before apologizing for Trump calling Trudeau a punk, which leads to her Skyping with the Prime Minister, where she gushes over him before mentioning the SNC Lavalin scandal, at which point Trudeau flees down Parliament.
So they actually offered the role to Trudeau, who turned it down, and instead was replaced with an imitator who they had found on YouTube. No, but seriously, I do appreciate the imitator because I'm pretty sure they would have taken out the SNC part if Trudeau was in the episode. And having Lisa bring it up is a great thing for her character. It shows that, yes, she can like politicians and she can like certain things, but that doesn't mean that she's just gonna blindly follow. She's still gonna question. Also, Parliament does not look like that.
Back in class, the teacher announces their plans to do an all-ages version of The Handmaid's Tale.
Very appropriate for school.
And Lisa continues to spout her love over everything in the country. But Marge isn't ready to give up yet, and with the help of squeaky-voiced teenager, she sneaks into Canada, where she tries to convince Lisa to come back.
Okay, so one thing I would really like to point out is that her foster home has a Quebec Nordiques doormat. And I gotta tell you, they are definitely very bitter if they're Quebec Nordiques fans.
At the bus stop, Lisa and Marge are headed to the US consulate. Still sad about leaving her new life behind, her teacher tries to tell her that Canada isn't all that it's cracked up to be. She points out the oil sands, and Lisa's classmates chime in, mocking the Quebecois and Newfoundlanders, before a Ralph lookalike breaks into song about being Newfoundlander, all while clubbing a stuffed seal.
So speaking from experience, I grew up in Ontario and yeah, I made a few Newfie jokes in my time. They're basically just redneck jokes with Newfies being the punchline instead. And as for the Quebecois, outside of the 1960s, more or less it's just been a few jokes and a few gripes about bilingual packaging. Most people just meh.
At the consulate, Marge is trying to get them back into the US, but apparently you need your hand stamp for re-entry.
Really? I mean, you could have had any number of reasons. A hand stamp. You do all this work to get the Simpsons to Canada, and when you have to tell them no to continue to the third act, a hand stamp.
Back at the foster home, Marge is thinking of another plan while Lisa is still upset. Marge finally accepts Lisa's feelings and asks her to reflect and think about the country she would be leaving behind if she becomes a Canadian. Lisa goes to the Detroit River with some non-alcoholic Molson and starts thinking about the things that she loves about the United States. Among the list is Abe Lincoln, Dumbo, Aretha Franklin, Eleanor Roosevelt, Seabiscuit, and IBM Watson. But Judy Blume appears and tells her it's okay to stay in Canada. But Louis Armstrong appears and interjects, basically just telling her, go home. And that appears to be enough for her. Oh yeah, and they make a joke about legalized marijuana. At night, Lisa tells Marge she's ready to go back to America, and her and Marge are going back home. The two hire a pair of Quebecers to drive them across the river via snowmobile, are left stranded when the ice starts cracking. But not for long, as Homer and Bart make the save in a truck which sinks immediately. Fleeing for their lives, they find safe haven at a Detroit Lions game. Back in Springfield finally, Lisa does her best George Bailey impression and points out all the things she's missed. While back in her old class, they watch an episode of The Beachcombers.
Apparently, we stopped making television past 1990. So what the heck have I been talking about this entire time? Okay, so with less attachment to the show than what I had when I was a teenager, I can say that this episode is alright at best, meh at worst. The problem is that, of course, Lisa's not gonna stay, and I found that the reason she went back to the US, kinda cheap. I mean, Louis Armstrong says, go back. That's it. Honestly, I feel like she was barely there. And one of the issues I think was the pacing of this episode. Now maybe cut down on the whole bit about them getting to Niagara and just have them start at Niagara. You know, you can fill in the dialogue and then boom, all of a sudden Lisa is a Canadian. Have her spend some more time, maybe become friends with some of her classmates, which we know she has trouble doing. And hey, it might have been a little bit of a better episode, but all in all, this was a serviceable Simpsons episode, and I do appreciate there being, you know, some attempts at least understanding Canada a little bit more past Mountie, hockey player, Sasquatch, Canadian flag, maple syrup, beaver. So hopefully the next time the Simpsons visit Canada, they can do a little bit more. I mean, hey, you've got a whole huge ass country here, and I know Heated Rivalries is popular now, so next time they're gonna riff on a popular TV show, I'm pretty sure The Simpsons will end up in Ottawa. Anyways, that's gonna be it for me. I really hoped you liked this video. You know, comment and tell me what your thoughts are on this episode, or where else The Simpsons could end up the next time they visit Canada. Okay, so that's gonna do it for me. I'm Andrew, and I'll see you later.